This episode is brought to you by Arise Fight Co. This is for risk takers, the fighters, the ones who get knocked down but rise anyway. At Arise Fight Co., we don't back down, we get up. Visit Arise Fight Co. and become a member of their No Rounds Off Fighting Club and shop their clothing line by visiting www.arisefight.co. Use code Tinfoil at checkout for 10% off your entire order. Again, that's www.arisefight.co.
Here's the theory. The ship that sank in April of 1912 was not the Titanic. Instead, it was her sister ship, the RMS Olympic, that was disguised as the Titanic in an insurance fraud scheme orchestrated by the White Star Line Company. The motive behind this scheme was the actual Olympic ship was damaged at the time of the Titanic launch, and by switching the two ships and deliberately sinking the quote Titanic, the company would collect a massive insurance payout. I'm Ben,
I'm Logan.
and this is Small Talk.
Welcome in. Small Talk episode 4?
I say that hesitantly. I don't know.
I think it's 4.
Could be 4. Might be 3. There's a chance that it's 5. I'm not sure.
Alright.
However, so
That's interesting.
the Titanic.
I've heard of this.
I had never heard of it.
I didn't know this was something that people actually thought happened.
You say people.
Mm-hmm.
I myself
am a person.
am a person who just might be a believer.
Really?
Or maybe I don't buy it one bit at all. I'll let you know at the end. It's an interesting theory.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. I believe the White Star Line was like on the verge of bankruptcy before the Titanic.
Negative.
No?
No.
Really?
They're owned. I'm going to get into it in a second, who they're owned by. But as soon as I say who they're owned by, you'll be like, oh shit.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to lie to you. The fact that they were not in dire straits financially prior to the Titanic, I have trouble believing it was insurance fraud. It's from the jump. Yeah, we have a lot of script to get through here.
I'm not saying they weren't in dire financial straits. I'm just saying they were not on the verge of bankruptcy.
Okay.
They weren't massively. They weren't raking in money by any means, but they weren't about to go under either.
Okay. All right, let's get into it. Okay. Speak to me, oh toothless one.
Okay, let's not do that. So the White Star Line Company, which is owned by J.P. Morgan,
okay,
commissioned. Yep. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioned 3 nearly identical luxury cruise liners: the Olympic, which launched in 1911; the Britannic, which launched in 1915 and sunk during the First World War; and the Titanic, which supposedly launched in 1912. The Titanic and the Olympic were so similar that the casual observer could not tell the two apart, mostly citing minor differences such as the number of portholes, the flooring material, and obviously the nameplates. In September of 1911, the Olympic collided with the Royal Navy cruiser the HMS Hawke during a routine voyage, causing major structural damage to the hull of the Olympic. British courts at the time found White Star Line Company at fault for this incident. Therefore, there was no insurance payout for the Olympic. The repairs were reported to be very extensive, expensive, and it put the Olympic out of commission for a long time. I don't know exactly how long. This is where the theory of a switch is said to have began. So J.P. Morgan, I'm sure you're familiar. They're, nowadays, you got Chase Bank and every other Fortune 5 company probably. Yeah. J.P. Morgan's a $1 trillion name at this point. And a lot of the other theories that I saw was that this was the origin point. This was the big event that kind of pushed them into the and I'll get into why. I'll get into what they gained from this and all that good stuff. So, the switch was alleged to go like this. The RMS Olympic returned to the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast for repairs in late 1911 after the collision with the HMS Hawke. It just so happens that the Titanic was also being outfitted at the same shipyard at the same exact time, in preparation for its maiden voyage. During the next 3 months, White Star Line Company quietly swapped their parts, reprinted names and hull numbers, and installed interior fittings between the two ships, essentially turning each ship into the other ship. Meaning, when the, quote, Titanic left for its maiden voyage, it was actually the Olympic in disguise.
But wouldn't this damage be visible?
What do you mean?
The Olympic, it was damaged, correct?
Right.
So okay, you're saying it was repaired?
Yeah.
Fully repaired.
There was a 3-month period from where they said we're gonna fix quote unquote fix the Olympic.
But when you said it would be out of commission for a long time, is 3 months a long time?
Well, I mean, it still was technically out of commission after that 3 months.
How would it be fit to sail?
It wasn't.
But I don't know. I don't think I believe this.
You're losing me. Maybe I'm losing you.
So, if it was out of commission for repairs
For 3 months.
For 3 months.
Yeah.
You're saying at the end of this 3 months it was fit to sail.
No, it's why it sank.
But it sank because of the iceberg.
Did it?
I mean, I feel like it's yeah.
Are we sure?
I mean, you can. They've sent the submarines down there to see like where the iceberg hit.
Yeah. It's just hull damage. I mean, you can't for sure say, oh yeah, they hit an iceberg.
But it made
just as easily could have hit the hull of another ship.
Made it like 3/4 of the way across the Atlantic.
Look,
with a giant hole.
We'll get into it. They repaired it obviously enough to the point where it would float. If they got out there, you already have a damaged hull, and this ship had an icebreaker. So if it hit an iceberg, it should go right through. Maybe not right through, but it's not going to sink it. The Titanic was deemed unsinkable for a reason.
Let's continue.
All right. The angle of this swap was for an insurance payout. The Olympic was no longer profitable or held any value. Therefore, it was not insurable for any amount. The Titanic, however, was a brand new luxury cruise ship that was insured for, in today's money, roughly $150 million. And if it sunk for any reason, White Star Line Company would be paid the full amount. Next, we'll get into some evidence to support this switching theory. There are 5 main pieces of evidence that, to me, stick out. The first being, the original Olympic had 16 portholes on a key section of the sea deck of the boat, while the Titanic only had 14, which is visible during early construction photos of the Titanic. However, on its maiden voyage, the Titanic photos show 16 portholes on the same key section of the sea deck, which matches the Olympic ship. And there were no reported additions for any extra portholes. Not a huge piece of evidence, but I mean it's odd.
I mean, that's 100% confirmed?
Yes.
There are pictures of the Titanic, quote,
being built, has 14 portholes.
But I'm saying right now, on the bottom of the Atlantic, there are pictures of the Titanic with 16 portholes.
There were pictures of the Titanic as it was setting sail, and it had 16 portholes.
Okay.
On the bottom of the ocean right this second, I don't know. But the ship they were claiming to be the Titanic on its maiden voyage had 2 more portholes on the sea section of its deck than it was supposed to have. That is confirmed through photographic evidence.
Okay.
It's not damning evidence, obviously, by any means. It's just weird. That's all it is.
All right.
Second piece of evidence, which, and I've noted here, isn't necessarily evidence, but it looks kind of bad. J.P. Morgan himself was supposed to be on the Titanic for its maiden voyage, but canceled the day before it set sail, claiming sickness. 2 days later, he was allegedly photographed shopping in France, appearing healthy. It's worth noting several other high-ranking members of the J.P. Morgan firm at the time also canceled their stays on the ship just days before, also all citing illness as their reason for cancellation. Again, Nothing major. I don't have the names of the others that canceled. Just, it's odd. Same way that right before 9/11, several high-ranking people that worked in the Twin Towers just so happened to call out that day.
Okay.
Okay.
Didn't see that crossover happening, but
it's just
here we are.
just a piece. I'm just throwing it out there, seeing what sticks. Evidence piece number 3 was the worn interiors. Some of these survivors and surviving crew members allegedly noted that the interior of the ship appeared older than expected, saying there were worn carpets, scuffed flooring throughout the ship, and certain crew members even stated that parts of the ship resembled the Olympic ship. I'm assuming by saying that these crew members maybe worked on each of the 3 ships. I mean, if they're employed by White Star Line, then more than likely they did work on all 3.
Okay.
The 4th piece of evidence is the equipment numbers. Engine parts and propeller shafts, as well as other kind of miscellaneous and random pieces of the ship, were stamped with yard numbers. The Titanic's yard number was 401. The Olympic's yard number was 400. It is reported that components recovered from the wreckage were said to have been stamped with 401, matching the Titanic's yard number. However, according to sources, they also appeared to be, quote, doctored, or resembling metal or pieces of a hull that had been painted over. Lastly, the 5th piece of evidence was warnings from the crew prior to launch. There are multiple witness statements from survivors stating that crew members of the Titanic warned passengers not to board the ship prior to launch, stating that there was something wrong with the ship. Some stewards and stewardesses allegedly even quit and jumped ship before the Titanic's maiden voyage.
But see, are there pictures of this? Is there anything that can back this up?
Back what up?
Like, if crew members are jumping ship
I don't mean
port.
literally jumping out into the water. I mean they're just not going on the voyage.
Well, that's
dude.
on me. Okay.
Jesus.
So, okay, you mentioned J.P. Morgan himself and several
of his executives of the White Star Line company, yes.
But what's his name? Ismay. I don't know his first name. The guy that designed the Titanic.
Yeah.
He was on board the Titanic.
Maybe he didn't know.
He was also the nephew of the guy that owns Harlan Wolff Shipyard.
There's a good chance that only the people in a very tight-knit circle of this knew it was going to happen. I'm not saying I believe this. I'm not saying I don't believe it. I'm saying that there is enough evidence pointing toward the fact that this might have happened, that it could, if it were to come out today and experts were like, well, we just confirmed it, this is real, I'd be like, yeah, it makes sense. But if the opposite happened, if they were like, yeah, no, we've debunked this completely, I'd also be like, well, yeah. The one that gets me the most, I think, is the portholes. And I know that's a small thing, but it doesn't make sense to me how the Titanic ship had 2 extra portholes whenever in the original construction photos of the boat it had 14. That doesn't make sense because they didn't add any while it was being outfitted for its maiden voyage.
Yeah.
So there's either a switch that has happened or the information from that time is just incorrect.
I'm going to save everything I have until the end.
Okay. So, we will get into some evidence to debunk this theory. I don't think this evidence is as strong as the evidence that supports the theory. I will say that. So, debunk evidence number 1. The wreckage, which was not discovered until 1985, shows yard number 401 on the metal parts that had identifying numbers on them, which matches the Titanic. Again, we talked about the parts that were salvaged from the bottom, and they appeared, according to the internet, to have been doctored. That the 400 had been covered up and replaced with a 401.
Okay, I told you I was going to save it till the end.
Okay.
I do have a qualm with that.
Okay.
Sure, this piece of metal could appear to have been doctored. I do want to point out, whichever ship it was resting on the bottom of the Atlantic from 1912 to 1985.
Yeah.
So that takes away a little bit of that credibility.
For sure, yeah. And it could just be corrosion, like who knows, but these are experts giving these opinions.
And it's not like you're holding this piece of metal in your hand. Like, you're probably looking at this through a camera on a submarine drone or something like that.
Well, no, some of these were salvaged. Like, some of these were brought to the surface and examined.
Okay.
Because, I mean, this was, again, back in 85, which some of this wasn't salvaged until later on in the 90s and early 2000s. Because it wasn't found until 85. Some of this stuff wasn't brought up decades. Like, a few decades went by.
Okay. All right, well, continue. Let's go.
Okay. Additionally, the structural differences play a key factor. The ships were nearly identical, but they had different deck window arrangements, different restaurant layouts, and different internal configurations altogether. The shipwreck that was found in 1985 matches the Titanic blueprint and not the Olympics blueprint. That, to me, was, out of this whole thing, the most damning piece of evidence.
I agree. Yeah, if you have blueprints that match one ship and not the other, I think you can probably say it's that ship.
So, and I'm putting my tinfoil hat on, okay? Who's to say if they wouldn't go through all this, they could just switch the blueprints?
Who's to say if they were willing to go through all this, they wouldn't remove the 2 portholes? So there's 14 and not 16.
That's also true. But there's no recorded evidence of that. There's also no recorded evidence of switching blueprints. So this is one of those things that it's never going to be solved. It'll be a theory forever, unless no, it's a theory forever. This happened over 100 years ago. It's never going to be a thing. It's just going to be a theory forever. So the final piece of evidence is the fact that the quote real Olympic ship continued to serve for another 25 years after the Titanic sank. Records show that it sailed for 2.5 decades, with logs, photos, and maintenance records showing it was, in fact, the RMS Olympic. It even reportedly carried troops during World War I until 1935, when it was retired and scrapped. So, I have a note here. I hope you're not reading ahead. I feel like you are. It says, to figure out whether or not you buy into this theory. I'm leaning towards you probably don't. Is there any part of you that thinks, well, if they would go to the lengths they went to, how far would they go? Like, would they go as far as swapping blueprints or changing porthole number or portholes?
So there's an aspect of greed involved. Humans and greed, when they're paired together, yes, anything is possible. So that being said, yeah, possible this happened. What would you say is the strongest piece of evidence that supports it's actually the Olympic laying down there, not the Titanic? Out of the 5 pieces you outlined, which one is the strongest in your opinion?
I would argue the number of portholes, which could be fabricated while it was in the Harlan and Wolff shipyard. They easily could have just said, "Hey, toss 2 more portholes on the sea deck," for no reason. Let's the Olympic. That was a good idea. People liked it. Let's throw it on this one too. There's no reason that couldn't have happened. So when it was being built, and obviously when it was being prepared for its maiden voyage, if it happened during that 3-month window, sure. I think it's also weird that the owner, CEO of the company, and all of his executive friends didn't go.
Yeah.
I think that's odd. They were on the Olympics maiden voyage. They were on the Britannic's maiden voyage. They were not on the Titanic's maiden voyage.
I agree.
I think that's also weird.
That is strange. Going back to what you believe is the strongest piece of evidence to support this claim, that there were 16 portholes when there were supposed to be 14.
Yeah.
If you have the White Star Line and J.P. Morgan, both of which were at this time super rich, is that fair to say?
I would say they were beginning their tenure. They weren't super rich because, obviously the Olympic being damaged, it severely damaged the company. It was like they're losing out on a ton of money.
Okay, so this is a gamble, basically. Like,
pretty much, it's like we
Yeah.
gamble this or we start losing a ton of profit.
so to me, with as many things that were hanging in the balance for both of these companies, I think they would take away the 2 portholes, so it's 14 and not 16. It's a small, tiny little detail that could easily be fixed if you actually wanted to attempt insurance fraud for an astronomical amount of money at the time.
I don't know what goes into taking a port window out of a ship, and
That's true. Yeah, I don't know either.
nowadays I think that's doable in 3 months. 112 or 13 years ago, I don't know if that's achievable within
Well,
a 90-day window.
You think you're cutting out what 3 square feet of the ship?
Yeah, but you're talking about removing windows and
Yeah.
adding back whole of the ship. I don't know how easy that would be to do.
That's true. I mean, I don't know that either. But as much money as you could potentially make off this, I think you get that done. Basically, no matter how hard it is, I think that's something you for sure get done before you attempt this,
Okay, so
in my opinion.
all right. So what about the worn interior? Survivors and crew members noting that there were scuffed floors, worn carpets, and even some crew members stating that parts of the ship resembled the Olympic.
Um,
It's a brand new boat.
2 parts here.
Okay.
Trauma, ship sinking, pitch black in the middle of the Atlantic, you're freezing.
Some of these were from crew members that were working on the ship.
So
in that 3 months before it even sank, they were like, yeah, the floors were scuffed.
Okay, so were they being interviewed?
Well, this was like investigation. I mean, this was they asked, like, did you know? I mean, I don't know for sure. This wasn't really well documented. Again, it was 1911, so there's not a ton of eyewitness account
Right.
that can be for sure confirmed. All I read was crew members notably, or like took notice of the fact that what was supposed to be a brand new ship had scuffed floors, worn carpets, like handrails. You know, when you use a handrail long enough, it
Yeah.
kind of starts to wear out, that type thing.
Okay.
Were they recycling parts? Maybe.
Another point. We mentioned greed. I mentioned greed earlier.
Yeah.
Greed's involved here. Because if you're being interviewed, maybe a news story is going to come out. We interviewed the Titanic survivor. And they suggest, hey, some people are saying maybe that was the Olympic. Maybe it was insurance fraud. Gears are turning. If I'm, some steward in 1912, hey, you want to know what? I could sell this. I could get famous off of this.
They did that. I don't think that happened back then.
They didn't know. I think at that point in time, if you're being interviewed and they're wanting the story to go a certain way, they're going to interject those points. And then you could be like, oh yeah, it did look a little worn. And another point, the ship looked great in the movie. I didn't see any wear and tear on it.
I'm going to leave that long comedic pause right there. Wow.
I almost couldn't say it with a straight face.
Please
cut that part out where I said no, the part where I said I couldn't say. I want them to think.
Okay. Oh my god. Okay.
Ooh,
Yeah, man. Yeah, it looked good in the movie.
Is that another theory? Are we saying maybe the ship they used in the movie wasn't the actual Titanic?
Yep.
Is that it, or was that the Olympic?
That was a movie. Yep.
This is twofold.
That was actually a movie produced in a film studio.
I was on my way out. I think he just pulled me right back in.
Good deal.
Yep.
That actually was the Britannic.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're adding a third leg.
Okay.
So, I'm going to read this next little bit, and then I'm going to genuinely ask you, on a scale of 0 to 100, what you think the likelihood is of this actually happening. Okay?
Okay.
Just bear with me. So, the insurance claim was paid out in full, and White Star Line received the entire $1 million payout, which was in 1911, which equals roughly $150 million in today's money. The claim was settled in just 29 days, which was insanely quick for a large and catastrophic loss, such as a luxury cruise liner going down and thousands of people dying. Also notably, there was no investigation by the insurance company or no audit once the ship sank, as well as no recorded suspicion from the insurance company. There has never been any sort of admission of guilt, no documents, no testimonies, or anything regarding this theory publicly, or not publicly, officially. It is just a theory.
Okay.
So, hearing the fact that it was settled in 29 days, and they received $150 million. Do you think, like, put yourself in that mindset. You're a wealthy businessman, you own a few luxury cruise liners. You look at this and you think, damn, just lost one of my cruisers, like one of my ships. Somebody comes to you and says, hey, why don't you just replace the two? You know this other one's going to sink. Let it sink. Collect $150 million and then go about your day.
So I think it would be useful to know if the White Star Line had to pay out any money.
No.
They paid out no money to the families
$0.
of the people that died during the quote Titanic sinking.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Because they weren't deemed responsible.
Okay.
That's why the insurance paid for it.
Well, I hope I haven't tipped my hat in any direction.
Right now, you have given me, you've done a little devil's advocate action. Mm-hmm. You've given me the idea that you may lean towards this being just a silly story.
Okay.
Lay it on me.
I've listened carefully to everything you've said. I've interjected where I thought it was necessary.
I'll also say, before you give your opinion, it may have seemed like I tried to sway you to believing it's true. Was not my intention.
Okay.
I want you to tell me genuinely what you think with the evidence I provided.
Okay. The Titanic.
Yep.
It's obviously one of the most famous ships in all of human history.
I would argue it's by far and away the most famous boat to ever touch water.
I can't name another one, I'll be honest with you. Another ship?
The RMS Olympic.
There you go. Yeah, there's two right there.
The HMS Hawk.
Okay, yeah, there's three.
The Nina, the Pinta.
The Santa fucking Maria. Okay.
Okay.
We're back, baby.
Yeah, we're in. I believe it.
Well, okay. As fun as that was, the belief that the ships were swapped. And mind you, the Olympus had a pretty long career after the fact. The Olympic had a pretty long career after the fact.
It did.
We're saying that's the Titanic in this theory.
In this theory, yes.
Okay.
Because the Titanic was perfectly functioning. It was a brand new boat.
Okay. Not gonna lie, this is a pretty tall tale.
You may give you my thoughts while you ponder.
I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go.
Lay it on me.
I'm
I'll
ready
give
to
you
go.
mine after.
I'm ready to go.
Let's hear it.
It's a tall tale.
Okay.
That being said, I'm in favor of believing in every possible conspiracy theory out there. In my opinion, scale of 1 to 10, we're at a 10. It is the Olympus laying at the bottom of the ocean floor.
Oh yeah, baby. You're roped in,
I ain't
huh?
like that.
You're roped in?
Not at all, but I want to believe.
All right. Well,
I think the evidence is a sham.
all right.
Truly, I think it's a crock of shit. However,
Jesus.
Okay. It's like the Dark Watchers. I really want to believe it, so I'm going to believe it. It's not hurting anybody if I do.
Okay. So you both think it's a crock of shit, but you also believe it? Those two things don't really go hand in hand. So which is it? Do you think it is true or not?
Doesn't have to. None of it has to make sense. It's not hurting anybody either way.
Okay. I personally believe this theory is true.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see any reason to believe it's not.
Okay.
I think both any evidence that I laid out here can be debunked by the other side. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a clear, concise story. The thing that gets me is the portholes. I always end up back on the portholes. They changed with no official record. There was no official documentation saying that, hey, we're going to add 2 more portholes in this 3 months while it's being worked on to go out on its maiden voyage. You have crew members saying that this ship looks old and worn. There's scuff marks. There's damage all over. Like it looks like a used boat. This is not a brand new ship.
Stop drilling. You've struck oil. I'm right there with you. I believe it.
Okay.
I also think it's bullshit. Both of those things can be true.
I don't think they can.
I think they can.
I don't think you can believe something and not believe something at the same time.
There's no consequences. Of course you can believe both.
I'm not saying there's consequences. I'm saying that I don't understand how you can both believe something is true and believe something is false at the same time.
Check this. So today,
Explain your logic to me, please.
I'm in the store with my daughter, right?
Okay.
She sees this baby.
Okay. She sees a baby?
She sees this baby that she's seen for the first time. She tells me, that's my best friend. I'm like, oh, okay. Sure. Reality, she doesn't know this baby. Right? She doesn't know who that baby is. But if she thinks that baby is her best friend, it's not going to hurt me or her to like, oh, okay, yeah, that's your best friend. So, you can play that either ways. In my mind, I'm thinking, she doesn't know who this baby is. It's not her friend. But for her, you're my daughter in this situation. I hope you picked up on that. For her, I'm going to tell her, yeah, that's your best friend.
Yeah, I totally get that. That makes total sense. However, it is not true that is your daughter's best friend.
Yeah.
It's not true at all.
Are we catching on?
No.
Okay.
Because you're saying...
You're convinced. You're all the way there, right?
No, I'm not.
Oh.
On the Titanic? No. I'm probably like 70-30.
But you lean towards the Olympic.
Yes.
I lean towards
is
laying down
being
there.
An insurance fraud scheme.
Well, hey, we're sitting here recording this podcast. For the fun of it, I'm going to agree with you.
Okay.
In reality, deep down, I think it's bullshit. I think it's the Titanic laying down there.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I get what you're saying there. You're agreeing in good fun.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is a bona fide fact that baby in the store is not your 3-year-old
Well,
daughter's
okay, yeah,
best friend.
we can ignore that at this point. That's just how I was trying to portray my point.
Okay.
I think it worked because now you understand where I'm at with this.
I understand a few things
Yeah.
about you right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think it happened. I am bought in. I think J.P. Morgan and Chase is an evil company. I think they do evil shit, and I think they have evil people at the helm of their business. And I don't think it started recently. I think it started in 1911 when J.P. Morgan himself decided to become a murderer.
Well, I guess we can kiss our J.P. Morgan sponsorship goodbye.
I actually have a Chase account through Southwest, and they pay for my flights. So
Go on there today.
It's
shut down.
They're like, congratulations, you have $70,000 in debt and no flight rewards. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow Tinfoil Talk wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a rating, drop a review. It helps reach more listeners. You can also keep up with us on the socials, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, all at Tinfoil Talk. Follow, like, subscribe, comment, all the interactions. Most importantly, share with your friends. Until next time, put on your tinfoil hat and grab a beer. This was Small Talk.
Bye.
Love you.